Toni's House was founded in honor of a mother of two, Antoinette Espinosa, with the original vision to provide safe spaces for mothers to rebuild their lives and restore their families. So every year, the organization celebrates recovery, reflects on the meaning of motherhood, and lifts up all of the moms who live at and lead Toni's House. To do that this year, I asked Saudia Gordon, the younger sister of Toni's House founder Monique Westfield, Sophie Meharenna, our friend and advocate, and Toni's House board member Angie Westfield to join me in a conversation and tribute.
Just to kick things off, I want to ask what comes to mind when you think about Mother's Day? What meaning does it hold for you? Angie, do you want to maybe start us off?
Well, first of all, I feel honored that I was even asked to be a part of this interview. And what comes to light to me is just the gift of motherhood. And that's amazing within itself. But mothering is, of course, as you know, it can be biological or it can be just out of love, period. And it's just sharing myself with my children that I was blessed with. And it's selfless. And I appreciate learning through my children the person that I am and the person that I became. After mothering, I was taught a lot, and it is indeed a gift. There's hardship and there's joy, and it's a blessing, and that's what I receive from motherhood. Of course, there's a lot to it, but you have to go through it. And I think a woman and myself, I feel that I'm special in the sense that I never gave up. I always wanted to be the best mother I could be.
I appreciate everything that you said, Angie. And for me, Mother's Day is a lot like how you speak about it in such high regard. When I think of Mother's Day, my experience was that I got that mothering, like you said, from a non-biological loved one in terms of non-biological mother. So I have had the opportunity to still be blessed with the love of that woman who feels the need to, be the mother that isn't, there in the physical. So, and myself, I had two girls that were like my stepdaughters that I'm still very much, connected to, even though, me and their father isn't together anymore. So I've been able to also give that love from a mother's mothering place, and with love and complete unconditional terms, in the sense of, I don't want anything to ever go wrong for you. That kind of love that only comes from the love of a mother's heart.
I'm not a mother, but have and had, well, I would say had an amazing one, in that sense that I think Mother's Day is an incredible time to pause and reflect about the unconditional love that our moms pour into us in whatever form that may be, whether that's the ones we were born with, the women that come together and rally around you and really just help you realize your best self and do that beyond themselves in that way. I think that, when you become a mom, it is coming from a place of you have to put your kids before yourself. And I recently, my mom passed away from triple negative breast cancer when I was 22 years old. And the amount of love that she was able to pour into me in that short kind of span of time was able to last for a lifetime. And I've never necessarily tried to fill that void because I don't think it's possible, but I am so blessed by, the women that have showed up for me in the aftermath of her passing, whether that be my aunts or my mentors and just different people that really exude that mothering, and that, to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying earlier, it's not so much only in the form of, the woman that was your biological mother, but what are the other, public figures that are in your life that can really pour that love into you as well. So to me, Mother's Day is every day. I think that a designated holiday doesn't do it justice. And I'm so grateful for everything that moms do across the board.
Can you all describe your moms? Just paint a picture for the audience of what your moms were like, what you remember about them, what first comes to mind when you think about them. And I know, Saudia, you also mentioned that for you, the kind of person that was most instrumental in your life that you think of when it comes to mothering was not your biological mom. So it
But
could
I
be.
definitely, she was definitely a colorful woman. So describing her is not hard.
I want to go for it.
I knew my
Tell us
mother.
about it.
I knew my mother very well. Okay, I guess I'm first. Okay. Yeah. My mother and I, during my early childhood years, during my formative years, were not connected. But I was blessed enough and fortunate enough to get to know my mother and to have a relationship, overcome the hurt and the resentment that I had towards her for not being there. I was able to do that. And in me being able to do that, I was able to get an up close and personal view as to who she was and kind of what made her tick, so to speak. So my mother, she was when I say very colorful woman, very colorful character, personality, because she was extremely outspoken, opinionated. She definitely liked to make a presence when she stepped into a room. And she was very headstrong and determined that her will be done, whatever that was that she was setting out to do. One thing I learned in school is that, we take on our biological parents' personalities. We may be raised by someone else, and that person may try to set a foundation based on creating a certain environment to, guide you or shape you to be a certain kind of person. However, our personality traits as human beings come from our biological parents. So what I do to fill the void of her not being in my life, to teach me some of those life lessons and, give me some of those cool things to grow on like mothers do every day. What I do is I try to look at different aspects of my personality traits, and I can see a lot of who my mother was and who I am in different times in my life, or when I'm faced with certain obstacles, challenges, and triumphs. When I'm faced with those things, and when I interact with others, I experience her. So I just had to spin this to a conversation where I'm speaking about having to overcome some resentments and some sadness and some fears. The way I choose to celebrate my mother is in taking the good, extracting the good that I can from her. And what that would be is maybe not her presence, but the gifts that she has given me naturally, from her being my mother. So never giving up is definitely in my DNA.
Sophie, what was your mom like?
She was such an incredible spirit. I think one of the common threads when you ask anyone in our life about what my mom was and represented to our family and just her greater community was very much a connector and connective tissue. She was very much the glue of our family, was always curating different events and spaces for us to all rally around each other, get to know each other, build like really incredible memories, whether that was going to our church and borrowing costumes and different like decor, and like forcing us as kids to like do plays in the house just so that we would have those memories, to always kind of coming up with out of the box fun ways to just do memory making essentially. And she was really intentional and very specific in the types of feedback that she would give. One thing that I really appreciate about her is she was a very deliberate like writer when it came to cards and letters and what have you. Like I have so many notes from her that, you know, call out the things that as I was growing, things that she wanted me to imprint into my mind and encourage me. And I'm so grateful for the specificity of her intentionality. And I think that's why when you were asking earlier about like, what does Mother's Day represent to me? It's like, I have a complicated relationship with it because I do feel such a gap for such a, like an incredible human being. But there are so many artifacts that she's left behind that allow me to still stay close to her and feel her presence near. She was corny too, super silly. And I didn't realize how funny she was until now looking back. Like, you know, my mom was in her late 40s when she passed away. And now that I'm in my late 30s, I realized like I had gotten to know her as my mom and also started to become friends with her as our relationship was evolving, as I was, you know, growing up. But I didn't realize how cool she was in real time. I mean, I did, but I didn't recognize to the extent that now, like, oh, she's an actual human being. She's a person with an amazing personality. And I look back at some of our emails and I was like, how did I let this humor, like, we would have been best friends if I had met her now. And I think
That's cool.
that is, it's really cool to be able to get to know her again through these, like, again, these artifacts that we have.
Mhm.
And Angie, your mom is still with us,
She
right?
is. She is. She's 91 years old. And looking back, and that's a good question, Ashley, is that I didn't, and I still don't have a name, what my mother means to me and who she really is. But the first thing that comes to mind is resilience. She was amazing in the sense that for 10 years, she was subjected to my alcoholic father, who was very abusive, that we watched. My sister and I watched the abuse, but she never, ever forgot about her children. She withstood a lot just to show us nurturing. Even in her tears, she hugged us. Even in her sorrow, she never forgot us. And even in her pain, she stood. I recall that even as a little girl at night, I was raised in the South, in Atlanta, Georgia. At night, she would take my sister and I and go from door to door in our neighborhood to help people to vote, to register to vote. And back then, that was, you could have gotten in a lot of trouble, but she had no fear. And she stood, and I said, and she stand, and she always would rise to the occasion. Until finally, she said, it's affecting my children. I can take it. And so we all got on a train with $75. We all, my sister, my mother, and my auntie, on a train from Atlanta and came to California, not knowing what our life would be. So I had a true example of a woman that never had a phone, never had a car, and she learned to drive within a week and got a job within a week. And I had the best example of what a woman can be and what she stood for. So I had all, like you said, the DNA. So I stand and I fight and I believe in family. And my term is making family, because she always stood for family. So those examples that I experienced, and she taught me never to accept abuse, love yourself. And so I saw the example. And so my mother's been a woman of integrity, honesty. She lacked fear. and she never gave up on her children. So that is my motto. Never give up on your children. I learned that from my mother, no matter what you're going through. And I thought and I still think she's amazing. And that's what I appreciate about my mom.
That's beautiful.
What's incredible to me is that all of the answers were so different, but also so specific, and I think also so true of other women that we know, or probably we were hearing some of our responses and thinking, oh, that's also true of my mom, or that's also true of a woman that I know.
Mhm.
So I love the way that you each had a different approach to answering the question. Tell me, are there any other women that come to mind who played a positive role in your life, in your childhood, or in your development?
I can easily answer that. The reason that, that I'm, how can I say it? The reason that I am a woman of redemption, a woman of restoration, um, is because of the love of a woman who is very positive and influential. And I was so like, I just felt so lucky. So like, wow, how did I get, instead of sitting on the pity pot, seriously, throughout my life, oh, I don't have my mom and things like this, I was blessed with a sister, which is my sister Monique, which is Ashley's mother, who was all the mother. She managed to be a mother, a big sister, and a confidant and a best friend, literally all in one. So I just used to be like, how did I get so lucky? Seriously. My sister was always, she was always my pride and joy. I always loved to brag on her, I looked up to her, but most of all, I felt so secure knowing that I do have somebody who truly has my back, who truly has a love for me, like the kind of strong love that mothers have for their children. We were the ones who forged that bond during my youth and my formative years. And yeah, so I, was absent a biological mother here on one hand, but then, I was so fortunate to have a sister who just was instinctively an old soul, as they say, because she was very grown up and mature and uh, focused on early on. And while due to other challenges that I had, I was not able to soak it all in and vicariously live my best life, through her. It was okay because I was given the information, which is always empowering, and the repetition to the information, which kind of locks it in. And then the example of the information by watching her live a principled, honest, fruitful life that she just has a natural altruistic attitude towards those that she loves and just people as a whole. So I was able to be fortunate enough to be blessed with all of those things, to be able to see it, watch it, and model myself after it, in ways that I can. So I have some pretty solid, beautiful women in my life that I have been able to extract and hold on to. And I do have that one woman in my life who I know that has the love for me of a mother's love. So, that's the one person I have to say is my big sister, who wasn't prepared, wasn't informed early on, and wasn't begged or told to take on the job of loving me so unconditionally. She just did it. And there was never any question in my mind if I was a burden. That might have been a problem. Because I felt like, wait a minute, I'm a part of the package, or whatever the deal is. I just always had that comfort level, just like any other kid that's failed at life and has to come home to mom with their duffel bags and their dog and their car that has 300,000 miles on it. I'm home. Like, here I am.
I know that one thing I was thinking as you were talking, like, well, okay, if she was the mother figure, then what kind of rules rules were in play? And I think one
So,
thing that I know for sure is serious accountability. Like whatever you say you're gonna do, you better do it.
listen,
Kind of.
her rule was, the dynamics of our relationship was, her rule was, I'm the boss, I said so, and your job is to listen, and I accepted. It was just naturally, it was organic and natural, and nothing was forced. It was just always organic and natural. If I needed to, I look at her for advice, for the answer, for the way, for what to do, and that's how it was. And when she said something, I obeyed. So that was it.
What about you, Angie or Sophie? Anybody in particular come to mind?
My both of my grandmothers, amazing women, and one grandmother on my father's side, I looked to her for her street sense, meaning she was just very quiet, but she protected her grandchildren. And then my other grandmother on my mother's side, she was very quiet, but everyone came to her. I watched a constant flow of young women. They really respected what she had to say. And if someone in the neighborhood became pregnant back in those days, that was a no-no. She protected them, she cared for them, she sewed for them, she did everything to make them feel that they were safe and that they hadn't done anything wrong, and that they could make it continue on with their lives. She would care for their children and everything, and she was a wonderful seamstress, and I watched that. On the other hand, my father's mother, she would protect us. If someone would bully us, she would make us fight. And I was not a fighter. And she would go to the house and she would watch and said, she would ask who attacked you to one of her grandkids. And if we would point them out, she said, you have to fight them. She was that type, but she wouldn't start anything, but she would make sure you finish. And I would never fight. So I was the prior. My cousin Carol and I were with the babies, and she protected us. So what I'm saying, that you had two different women, but two wonderful, strong women. In a sense, you learned from both of them. And also, I know of a little, I call her my little giant, and that is Monique. And I agree that you never get too old to meet a wonderful woman. Monique is amazing to me, and she has played a big part in my life, my spirit, and my soul. And she is dedicated. And I'm not just saying that. I've lived that for several years now, and I have the utmost respect for Monique Ellis Westfield. And so I look at my mother, my two grandmothers, Monique, and there's another person that I read and I guide my life and try to live that life, is Mother Teresa. And those women are very important in my life.
One thing that I was thinking of when you were talking about your grandmother and how you watched so many different young women come through and sort of ask her either for a listening ear or for some advice about what they should do. I was thinking to myself, well, gosh, I don't know if she realizes, but that's also a role that you play now in the lives of a lot of young women, whether they're in your immediate family or just in your community, literally in your neighborhood. So maybe you've kind of taken on a a little bit of that was always in your subconscious that you had watched through your grandmother and now embodied that as well. I wanted to ask, on the flip side, are, like, as you were coming up, were there any negative experiences that you had with, girls or young women or older women that kind of shaped your perspective about women? And if so, what was that? And how have you sort of learned otherwise through lived experience, or how did you move past that encounter?
Situations, but there's no judgment for me. I've seen a lot of things in older women before when I was a younger girl, and they tend to trust me with their nonsense sometimes. And I was able to be a listening ear and not judge. And so I watched them carefully, and I would say to myself, I don't want to include that kind of situation in my life. So all those beautiful women that were doing things that I was taught not to do, I appreciated them also. And they were impactful because I made a decision that that's interesting, but I see what type of situation they ended up in. So no, I thank you for that, but I'm not going to include that in my spirit. And so I've been around women that what others would judge as not the right line of work. I love them because they were the ones that were always willing to help, because they would always teach me, don't do what I'm doing.
Because like for me, I'm lucky to be surrounded by a lot of really incredible people beyond my mom. My family has a lot of really strong women, and just a lot of where I always joke that I say my family tree is more like a forest between my cousins, my sister-in-laws. There's a lot of really incredible female energy in my life. And so my answer is less about negative experiences that I've had with other women, but more about by sharing the loss that I went through by losing my mom.
I wanted to ask you, Sophie, about that. Can you tell us, whatever you're comfortable sharing about losing your mom and how that impacted you? And I know personally that that's very complex and multifaceted, but just, give us a sense of sort of the different aspects and ways in which that impacted your life.
As I mentioned, I was 22 when my mom passed, and I'm the oldest of four. So my sister, who's the youngest out of the four of us, she was 13. So to kind of give context, and my brothers were 16 and 18. And in light of all of that, when she first passed, tried to rush my happily ever after. I turned my pain into a project and didn't really properly grieve. So, I poured my heart into doing advocacy work and storytelling, and really was trying to commemorate her in a way that I hoped would do a service to, the incredible woman that she was. That said, I didn't have a level of detachment to really properly approach that at the time. Like I mentioned earlier, I rushed into that happily ever after and really just wanted to make it seem like everything was rosy. When the reality is I was really suffering. And I used art and all these different conventions as a distraction, and brought people together. I was co-creating, a movement to really what I want to pay tribute to her. But what I ultimately ended up doing was, in trying to bring her back in some ways, it led to my own undoing. And I suffered from a lot of mental health issues that culminated later down the line because I had not confronted the fact that I was really hurting, and that these tools that I was using to commemorate her were actually just my ways of delaying that grieving process. So, that said, I think there was a lot of power in the vulnerability and sharing that in the before and after, when I would essentially became unhinged because I was pouring so much of myself into all these different projects and not really addressing, the grieving aspect of it. And I think that throughout that process, I've learned grief is love, and it is a beautiful way of addressing it. And you have to lean into your feelings, and healing comes with feeling all of your feelings. And that's a very long-winded way of saying, it's a struggle that I still go through today. Like the anniversary of her passing is next week. And around this time every year, like I start off the month with like celebrating my birthday, and I end the month, memorializing my mom. And she passed in 2008. And sometimes it still feels like it's yesterday. But then there's other times where you feel distance, you feel peace. And then it's an emotional roller coaster of, why am I okay? And then you feel guilt, and it's a very complicated kind of emotional roller coaster. But all of it ladders up to how incredible she was as a person. So even if I am going through these like whirlwinds and having had spiraled in the past and learned from that, I think it just shows the magnitude of what I went through. I think speaks to the magnitude of how amazing she was as a person. And if I can share those experiences and help other people feel less alone, I think that also makes what I went through more meaningful and have purpose.
What do you choose to do to honor her now?
I think the best way that I can honor her now is to take care of myself, to be honest. I think that the things that drew me to paying tribute to her through those different mediums of like, event activations, art, storytelling, and all these different things still are a part of my life today, and not in the same way that I was through that project. But I think that in order to pursue the things that, I find joy in, I have to also take care of my mental health. If you don't mind, I want to read something that she had written me that I found that can kind of shed a light on the type of person that she was, and also like the advice that I would give to myself through her words. In drawing from the lessons that she gave me in the 22 years that I got to experience her, I still am learning from her on a day-to-day basis through the remnants of the messages that she shared behind. And again, like to reiterate, the best way I can pay tribute to her is to be my best self, and to be as healthy as possible, and to show up for myself in the way that she showed up for me. And I have notes like this that remind me of her magic, but then also my potential too. And I'll share this with you guys really briefly. But so this is a note that she had written for me when I was graduating from high school. She said, "My dear Sophie, we never thought that time flies like this. And I never thought that we'd get a turn to celebrate your high school graduation so soon. But I'm very thankful to see you grow to such a beautiful person in all aspects of life. You are a very sensitive, intelligent, loving, very open, sociable person. You are persistent and want to try different things at the same time. You are a swimmer, diver, basketball player, soccer player, dancer, choir, singer, both at school and church. And by the way, your solo was great. Pianist. Last but not least, you are an awesome writer. And recently you surprised us by being Miss La Palma. Therefore, Sophie, from what I understand, you can be anything, anytime. Using all your qualities, you can be somebody. Don't quit, don't stumble, look forward, have faith in God, and reach the top. You are the sunshine of my life, and so you add so much love, trust, hope, and excitement, and gathering to the family. You are one of the reasons for me to love life and to look forward for tomorrow. We had a lot together. When I cry, you kiss away my tears. When I am sad, you cheer me up. When I am happy, you laugh and dance with me. When I am lonely, you fill the gap. When I am at church, you stand next to me and worship. And today you make me the happiest mom on earth. You are special, you are unique, you are Sophie. I love you, but I have to let you go. fly and reach your goals. And most of all, take the right steps and know that anything is possible. And, like, I have so many like remnants like that, where it was just like, to have someone that believed in me in that capacity and was very communicative about it. I have to be able to honor that and be that for myself, and be that validation and affirmation that I received so steadily growing up.
Thanks for sharing that with us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's precious.
I wish
Yeah,
I could met your mom for sure.
I know. Don't make me cry. I wish you.
Oh, it's healthy.
Yeah.
You still look cute. It's okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think she would be proud of the people that I have around me in my life right now. And, and all the times where I tried to fill the gap unsuccessfully, but I've also I'm surrounded by so much love.
I just wanted to share with Sophie, thank you for saying the things that you said and being as descriptive as you were by reading that. Oh my gosh, that letter was just beautiful from your mother, because that right there highlights and embodies what it takes as a parent to uplift and just to rear and raise a confident, focused child.
I wanted to ask you, Saudia, about how, as all of you know, there are a lot of women at Toni's house who are mothers, or maybe they're not mothers themselves, but they've had challenges and tumultuous relationships with their mothers or other family members. And some, or a lot of it in some cases, stems from, certain challenges that they had in their life, whether it was, various forms of living instability that landed them to be seeking a safe space for recovery, like Toni's house,
Mhm.
And so sometimes around the holidays, it can be a touchy time where women get really emotional. They're either missing family, or on Mother's Day, they might be reflecting on experiences that they've had, for better or worse, with their mom, or what might be lacking from their own point of view in their motherhood, because either they're not with their kids, at this moment in time. Some women have, lost custody of their children, or a family member is, raising their child, or whatever the case might be. Can you just speak about, what would you say to those women who might be beating themselves up because of where they're at right now in life, but just in terms of having taken that step to seek out the safe space and to be doing the work to rebuild their lives?
I went through drug and alcohol abuse. And what I want to say is to the women, firstly, the first thing that I had to hear to begin to forgive myself was that you are a sick person, not a bad person. And when I say sick, I mean in the sense of, you are suffering with an addiction or a condition that was greater than yourself, in a sense of your better thinking and your overall spiritual place that you are in life. So I said all that to say, start with forgiving yourself because you needed help. It's not that you were, intentionally setting out to cause harm and cause any, trauma to your own children. So the first step is self-forgiveness. And the question is asking me basically, what I can offer to start you off on that journey. Firstly, if you're at Toni's house, and for women who don't know about Toni's house, places where you can seek the help and the support to become a better mother, if you're there, you're in the right place. That's the first step. We can't go anywhere. All journeys start with the first step, and we cannot go anywhere without taking it. So you're heading in the right direction. That is huge to the process of you forgiving yourself, because you're setting out towards the solution. I say never lose sight of the problem, no matter how bitter that pill may taste. You have to understand your true problem in order for you to move toward the solution and embrace and set out on the solution. And that, when I say understand the real problem, what I mean is totally be open-minded and humble enough to accept the full, unadulterated, uncut truth about your life and how you got to where you are. And there, you can embark on the path of forgiving yourself. All of those things are a part of recovery, because we are hurting people who have been hurt, and hurt people tend to hurt others. So, mothers who are suffering with the guilt and the trauma of being separated from your own children, know that we know, when I say we, everybody outside of you, that you love your child. So it's time to forgive yourself. And in that forgiving yourself process, you stay on the path that you're on, because you're in the right place. Because I am like you, we're sick people, not bad people. When we get that foundation under us, it's something solid that we can stand on and go forward from there. Build your foundation at Toni's house. Forgive yourself, because you're a sick person, not a bad person. Know that you're in the right place, and it's only up from here. One thing I have to say, Monique, my sister, the founder of Toni's house, always used to say to me, when I was caught up in the grips of my addiction and I was at my worst, she understood that I was the product of, not having my mother in my life. And she had the compassion and the sense of mind to say, I cannot imagine how it could feel to be a mother and to not be the best mother that you can possibly be. So she understood from the perspective of the outside looking in to the child, which I would be the child of a mother who was not there due to street life. So to the child, she would say to me, in a sense, that your mother is dealing with some things that are greater than herself, because she personally could not bear the weight of guilt on her heart and shoulders of being a mother that doesn't have their child in their life. So I said that to say, you're in the best place you can be, because you're in a place where there's a woman who, even though she did not have that personal experience, has all the compassion and empathy in the world for mothers that are going through what you ladies may be going through. So I hope I said something that can bring someone a sense of hope, because you haven't given up on your children in this respect. You are embarking on making a great future for them by being where you are and doing what you're doing.
I know that's going to touch somebody for sure who needed to hear that. Angie, I wanted to ask you on a related note. You are a mother, a grandmother, and now moving into a caretaker role for your own mother who's in her 90s.
Yes.
And you're also no stranger to, after watching multiple generations of your family develop now, like seeing some of the challenges that your own children have faced and having to kind of try to be the best mother and be there for them, while also knowing that that's their experience and there's only so much that you can do. So can you tell me a little bit about some of your experiences and the challenges of being a mother who was present, who was engaged, who tried to pour love into all of her children, and then ultimately kind of had to watch them all go on their unique life journeys despite despite what you could and did give to them?
Sure, I'd be more than happy to. The blessing was the gift of the 3 children, my husband and I. But with that, everything, you always think that it's going to work out fine, stay at home mom, all those kinds of things. But my oldest son has been a meth addict uh, for about 38 years. And I've watched him just decline. He has gifted me with 5 beautiful granddaughters. Um, and they're from, it's a universal kind of family here, meaning that he's not in their lives, but I understand his sickness, but it has caused a lot of grief in my spirit, but I haven't given up on him. And each time he asks for forgiveness, I would say to him, it's not for me to forgive, it is for me to love you. You're on a journey and I will never give up. With my youngest son, he was born with spina bifida and he was in a wheelchair most of his life. And my youngest son committed suicide. I experienced that. I have my daughter who is my world. All 3 children was my world and is my world. I never let them go in a sense. But my daughter is a gift from God. She understands my pain. She understands that grief is a journey, that you never, that road just keeps going. It goes and goes and goes. And once you think you're at the end of the grief, at that journey, and at the fork of the road, that's when you say, it hurts. Say to yourself, it hurts, and never pretend. So I've experienced anything you can think of. I did not ingest the drug, but you become an addict in the sense of trying to maneuver to help. And then you have to let go. And you have to say, now, Angie, if you're going to be the best mother, you're going to have to practice self-care. You're going to have to be strong in the sense you need to be here for the little ones, your grandbabies. You have to set an example. So in saying that, I've experienced everything just about a drug addict would experience, but I've not gone to buy the drugs, but I've lived it. I've seen the pain of the children, all of those things. But the beauty of it all is that I will never give up. And with Toni's house, I wish we had a Toni's house in Los Angeles on the magnitude of Monique's Toni's house. Because when you enter Toni's house, she's giving you every tool possible to say you count for something.
Yes.
Okay, the next thing is she's stating, just ask your children, ladies, hear me out. Ask your children for a new day. Yes, take care. You're doing the work, but have you just sat with your children and say, can I have a new day with you? Because I'm working on my new day. Can we take this journey together? That's the beauty of Toni's house. It's a new journey. And you're just asking your kids, hey, you don't ask them right away to forgive me. That's a lot to ask. Hey, just can you take this ride with me? We're going to do this together. I need you. How many mothers tell their kids, I need you? We can do this together. So I've experienced so many things. I've been a caregiver all my life. as far as caring for loved ones, whether they had serious illnesses or my child being disabled. My son's a drug addict, and my daughter is doing wonderfully. She's a good person. All of them are good people. But let's remember, they were all good until they met up with drugs or suicide, whatever was in that person's spirit. I just know that we ask for a new day each day with our kids, even if we're not the cause. Just ask for a new day. That's so simple, but we tend to say, can we get treatment? Can we do this? Can we do that? Sweetheart, mommy's not well. Mommy's hurting. Can I have a new day with you? A new chance. Toni's house gives you a new day and a new chance. And so I say, that's why I'm dedicated to Toni's house, because I see the beauty in the women. She's given them a new day. And that's what I appreciate about my pain. The ladies give me an opportunity to help them when I can't find or reach my son. They've given me a new day and a new cause. And I appreciate it.
I just have one last question for each of you. And that's what's been the most life-changing lesson that you've learned from a woman in your life, be it your mother or any other woman?
That's a good one. Early on, Angie spoke about the women that she learned from, in terms of what not to do, in terms of, danger, and some older women that were not necessarily as patient and that were not necessarily as attentive, that it's important to be kind to children. It is important to be kind. It is important to encourage, and it's important to communicate clearly, effectively, and by using love, right? So, because of my early childhood experiences and what I see in the community with children lacking love, lacking attention, lacking compassion, it has impacted me in such a way that I had embarked on my education to become an educator, to work with children, because for me, it's life-changing. I will feel that I'm living my purpose-filled life.
My daughter, Tamika, really is just amazing in my life and in my spirit. She's taught me a lot. Just because of my age, it doesn't mean that she hasn't been really impactful in my life. It's amazing. I see through different eyes now that she's older, and she's taught me amazing things. And age has nothing to do with learning. Age has nothing to do with growth. Age has nothing to do with really experience, because if you have a really intelligent young lady like you, Ashley, around, that's the growth. And I'm just growing from being around the younger young ladies. And because the newness, it's just wonderful to see that you guys are ladies. How wonderful is that? And I'm appreciating learning from really two women of integrity. Thank you. I am grateful. Thank you so much. And listening to the ladies. Oh, okay. You guys are wonderful, and I'm just grateful. That's it. Gratitude.
I love that. That's hard to follow, but I think one thing that I'm taking away from this conversation, and then also just like to refer back to, I know Ashley, you said like some words of wisdom from some woman in our life, is just the power of reframing. When reminding ourselves that we are the authors of our lives, and that if a happy ending depends on where you stop your story. So keep writing.
I like that.
I like that.
that's something that I would encourage the women in Toni's house and women in general to just know that it's not your happy ending. It's not the end yet. You got to keep swimming. And also I want to reflect on just, again, the power of reframing how we look at the cards that we're dealt. I was having a bad day one day and I was talking to my sister and we both were like leaning into the negative energy that we were feeling. And excuse my French, but both of us woke up and were like, same shit, different day, right?
Yeah.
And we were like, no, we have to challenge ourselves to reframe that. And I have this on my fridge, and she took that same sentiment and phrased it as, today is a familiar day, or new day with familiar things. And just the power of like how you talk to yourself and how you talk to others, that really shapes your worldview. And I think that no matter what we all go through and the paths that we walk, there's always a way out. There's always a way upward. And again, just that reminder that a happy ending depends on where you stop your story. So don't stop it until you find the chapter that gives you the most joy, that pays tribute to your resilience, and that we just continue to never give up.
I feel like, I don't know about all of you, but I feel like we should end it on that note. That was,
Yes.
I love that.
I'm gonna keep that
keep
whole, like,
writing.
what was it? New day, familiar things.
Yeah, today's a new day with familiar things.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
My sister.
Thank you all so much for doing this.
Thanks for watching this special Mother's Day episode of In Recovery with Toni's House. Toni's House provides a safe living environment and a supportive community for people in transition, helping them to heal, reconnect with children and family, and develop the skills needed for a healthy and fulfilled life. You can support Toni's House by visiting www.tonyshouse.org/donate and by clicking the subscribe button for more informative content and inspiring stories. Happy Mother's Day!